Magnussen was killed in an apartment near Mayfair.
23-year-old Martine Vik Magnussen was found partially buried in the basement.
Before being questioned, the only suspect in the case had fled the UK to Yemen. I made a promise to Martina's family to find out what happened. Murder in Mayfair, part of the documentary. Find it wherever you get your BBC podcasts.
Sheltered from the rain, in a small dark room with mud walls and a metal roof, a line of women sing their hearts out, swaying in time, eyes fixed on the choirmaster, whose hands fly gracefully through the air as he signals where the hymn should go. Some have reason to rejoice. Here in Western Kenya's Siaya County, a massive experiment is underway. Tens of thousands of people in dozens of villages are being given money quite literally for free, no strings attached.
My life before, I had worries. But now, I feel so excited. I'm very happy. There is a change in the village.
People were really happy. They were not expecting that. Even now, they are still happy.
It's all to test a contentious idea that putting cash into people's hands is a better, more efficient way to bring them out of poverty than spending money on traditional aid projects designed by well-meaning outsiders. A champion of this approach is Give Directly, a charity set up in the 2000s by American economists, which operates mainly in the US and Africa. Back in 2018, the BBC visited Siaya shortly after Give Directly started handing out the free money. At the time, people couldn't believe their eyes when they saw cash transfers pinging onto their mobile phones.
I
thought I was dreaming. I still didn't believe it was true. I have never seen anything like this since I was born.
The theories was that when we get this money, there will be a big snake coming in the house. Your son or daughter will die. But we found that they were just myths and stories.
It's obvious that extra cash should make life easier. The point of the Siaya experiment is to study what people do with the money and how it changes their lives. I'm Mary Harper and welcome to the documentary from the BBC World Service. In this episode of Assignment, I'm back in Siaya 5 years on to find out how it's going and to see whether this great experiment could change the future of international aid. I've come to a village here in Siaya County where they gave people small amounts of cash on a regular basis. The rains have fallen quite recently, so it's a most stunning, vibrant green with the red earth. And you can see the farmers all bent over in their fields with their hoes. You can also see the odd goat and cows and land stretching out all in front of me onto the horizon. I've come here to meet the choirmaster. His name is Edwin, and he's a farmer and casual labourer. Like every adult in his village, he's receiving the equivalent of $20 a month for a 12-year period, a kind of universal basic income. Before the free money came, households in this area survived on about $80 a month. Speaking to the BBC back in 2018, having a home of their own was Edwin and his wife Jane's biggest dream.
Then we just save bit by bit, iron sheets, woods, and the rest, so that when the time comes, we have the money, we have materials, and then we do everything. 5 years ago, I was in my father's home. So now I'm in my home.
And 5 years later, we're sitting in the house that you've built.
Yes.
Which is really nice. We're sitting on very comfortable, colourful chairs and sofas. You've got a tin roof, you have mud walls.
It took me almost 2 years when I was keeping money bit by bit. Now, this home is Edwin and Jane's home.
Getting a home, doing it up, is pretty much a priority for all of us. But in Siaya's Luo culture, it's even more important. Men like Edwin are not considered full adults without a home of their own. As an eldest son, he has to have his own place before his younger brothers can move out of the parents' compound. The extra cash has not only enabled him to save for a house, it's improved his marriage.
The money does make us more united. Before the Give Direct came, my wife was selling chapatis in the area. But bit by bit, she started new clothes business that it is helping, and it's also helping us in the house as family. And also I am feeling good. It has changed my life because I also do juakali.
Casual work?
Yes.
Okay.
Digging for people. Some years back, I was having a problem in paying for things for my children. Sometimes 1 week or 2 weeks without getting money. This Give Direct, it has helped me really in paying for things for my children.
Perhaps the most profound impact has been on education. Primary school's supposed to be free in Kenya, but in reality, parents have to pay all sorts of fees. Children can't go when the fees can't be paid. The free money is putting a stop to that. Almost all kids from the village go to school every day of every term. In the classroom, dozens of small hands shoot up, desperate to be picked to give the answer. When a child gets it right, they stand up, hands on hips, and do a jaunty little dance to the applause of the rest of the class. When the BBC visited school teacher Irene 5 years ago, the children sat on mats on the hard earth floor. Now they have colourful plastic desks.
In our village, everybody's getting Give directly. Now you see, if there is something like school fees payment, they pay. Now there's a change because even the children are learning without being sent home. You see, the children are being fed well. Even their mode of dressing, they're dressing very well.
Like Edwin, Irene has realised her dream of building a house, and her eyes shine with pride when she tells me how she put her son through school. He's now at college, studying engineering. Irene says the free money has brought about less tangible changes too, in terms of strengthening the community, especially through savings groups, whereby people pool their money, taking it in turns to take out a lump sum.
Through our meetings, it is also uniting us together. We have unity. We are giving each other advice. Now you've got the money. This one you can do for maybe buying a goat. This one, make sure that your child's the mode of dressing is well.
The health of the villagers has also improved. Previously, nobody could afford to pay for Kenya's national health insurance scheme. Now they can, and they do.
Now you see, if a child is sick, you can just rush to any hospital and the child is being treated very well. Wow. Now we see the health of the children are good. The nutrition, it is good because through our savings, you can purchase maize if you don't have for the meals. You can even have your vegetables. Then you cook very well and you eat.
People can no longer say they can't afford to feed their children. Everyone knows that everyone else is receiving the money, and they use this fact to police each other.
You'll find that if your child does not carry anything, I'll ask the child, have you been given money to go and buy porridge there? Yes. And if it is not like that, I'll come to the mother. I'll say, why didn't you give the child something to carry? Yeah, I know you can afford to give the child something.
Of course, education and better housing really matter, but also in play is a fundamental economic question. Are people simply becoming dependent on the free cash, or is it creating a path for them to lift themselves permanently out of poverty, which, after all, is the aim of the project?
So we're just coming up through some houses to a lady. Hello, who's frying fish in a big black pot. And the pot is balanced on some rocks outside. And it's over a fire made from sticks. And lots of oil, fish heads, fish tails. Hello, Jambo, habari yako? How are you?
I'm fine.
I'm Mary from the BBC.
Since receiving the money, Evelyn has started selling fried fish from nearby Lake Victoria. She's doubled her income.
Before Give Directly came, it was mostly just selling the samosas that I was selling. It was a very small business. I needed to complement it by doing casual work. So I would have to go into people's farms, work for them, give me a little money. A lot of times you would find that, there was a lot of begging. You have to begging and borrowing, like literally asking people for help. It was not easy to put food on the table, and that bothered her a lot. Yeah.
That income, she says, has given her independence and helped her leave her husband.
I feel like I'm independent because if I reflect on the time when I was living with my husband, even then I was still the one who was doing everything. So it feels like the same responsibilities that I had then are the same ones that I have now. And now I don't fear anything. I don't feel like I'm lacking in any way in order to be able to sustain my life.
Is she in the least bit interested in getting married again?
Okay. You know, my husband make me feel very bad. I'd rather leave my mom's home. I go and rent a house somewhere in a marketplace and live with my children. Even if another man came and wanted to marry me today, I feel very fearful because I'm just imagining that men are the same and maybe he might treat me the same way. So I'd rather stay the way I am.
But not everyone won in the free money lottery. The Siaya Basic Income Programme is an experiment. It's being analysed forensically by top universities. And the uncomfortable reality is that an experiment isn't an experiment unless there's something to compare it with. So the study includes nearby communities, equally poor, who weren't given anything. One is the village right next door.
I'm on the shores of the magnificent, vast Lake Victoria, and in front of me here is a row of about 14 or so wooden boats, and they're sitting amongst water hyacinth, and there's a small white egret walking in the water, and the lake just stretches ahead of us as far as our eyes can see. We've come here to meet the village elder, Thomas, who is a fisherman.
All our work, all we do is to get enough food. And when we don't have it, we just go without. In our area, we don't do 2 meals. We simply have 1 meal a day. Fishing is a hard life. In an exceptional month, we make about $200. But mostly, we get about $20 to $50. It's not enough.
When you first heard that your neighbouring village was going to get basically free money, what was your reaction to that news?
We really felt bad. We cried. We wanted the same thing, but we didn't get that money. We really cried for it. We yearned for it, but we never got it.
As the village elder, fingers were pointed at Thomas for failing to bring the money to his community, money which some thought had something sinister behind it.
People were confused, believing maybe the neighboring village had connections to important people, which helped them get the free money. And people thought we didn't have those connections. Some people blamed us, blamed me, for not working hard enough to get free money for the village. Others believed that we had been offered the money but had turned it down because we thought it was some kind of devilish scheme orchestrated by people who worshipped evil spirits. Some said these people wanted to take our children away in exchange for the money. We didn't believe that. We were also wishing for some free cash.
As we walked back to his village, it was immediately obvious it wasn't doing as well as its neighbour. Mud walls were cracked, roofs were rusting, and Thomas showed me his meagre catch from the night before.
Stretched out here on the grass is a net, and then on the net are these tiny, tiny, tiny fish, like silver jewellery, and they're really, really pretty small. They're much smaller than my little finger. So Thomas is now leading us to the fields, where now that the rains have come, it's the weeds' time to grow. So his second wife is there with children, hoeing and weeding, which is pretty back-breaking work.
Thomas's wife, Laureen, takes a pause from hoeing. Her family had to depend on government food aid during the recent drought.
The life was difficult. Hard life. How to get food was difficult. How to get water, difficult. We are in hard time here. Yeah.
What about the children?
They
don't feel good. They keep crying, arguing with each other. And they feel hungry, especially when they only get one meal.
And at the moment, are your children going to school regularly?
It's not regular. It's hard for me. Some of my children are in secondary school and some are in primary school. We struggle with school fees. It's so difficult for me. I don't even know what I'll do. I struggle to keep them in school.
The next village, they're receiving some money. What do you feel about that?
I feel jealous, but I also think it's good for them. They can send their children to school and can eat better. We get on peacefully. We are only wondering why we didn't get this money. We live in hope that one day we'll get the money too.
But, as Thomas explains, they haven't been shut out entirely from the benefits of their neighbours' free cash.
Because we are fishermen and they are not fishermen, we get their money when they come to buy our fish. When that village gets money, they buy more. So we get more cash from them since they started getting the money.
It does seem cruel, morally uncomfortable to have the haves and have-nots living side by side. It's playing with people's lives, even if the villages are selected randomly. Caroline Tetty is Director of Recipients Advocacy at Give Directly.
It's a true dilemma. We are mostly donor dependent and our resources are not infinite. It therefore means that at some point you will stop and somebody will be left out. If we were to do this in an environment that is not experimental, we would want to include everyone to the extent that our money can go. In Liberia, we started a program that was going to enroll a whole county and send them universal basic income. In Kilifi, we also identified a location and we were going to send money to the whole of that location without leaving anybody out. We hope that one day we can reach a level where we can get as much resources that all villages that deserve to get this money actually get to receive it. But as it is right now, our hands are tied.
Although it's harsh, she says initial studies have indeed shown that even those who don't get any money are doing better as a result of extra spending on goods and services by their luckier neighbours.
Every dollar that was given to a recipient of Give Directly's transfers, the multiplier effect was like 2.5 times on recipients and also people who did not receive the transfers. For the trader, the impact is increased sales, but also some of our recipients built a house, bought domestic animals. So it creates jobs because houses will require artisans. If you have domestic animals, you want somebody to tender them. So there is a multiplier effect on recipients and also people who did not receive the transfer. And this has been studied rigorously and there is evidence to support it.
The impact of monthly free money isn't the only model being trialled by Give Directly here in Siaya. We drove along mud roads to another village, one where people have been given one-off payments of about $1,000. A farmer, whose name is also Edwin, was one of the recipients.
When these people came, I felt very happy really, really happy because in all my life, I'd never touched money like equivalent to $1,000. Though there were reactions from the community, like he must have joined Illuminati group or something because nobody gives you money just like that. And that even if no one gives you and without taking any sacrifice. But for them, they said, fine, even if it is a sacrifice, at least for us, we have had it, we've got it. I prayed over it, and myself, my wife, and the family were so happy because we were going to see a change. We were going to live different from before.
And now we're coming to a house with a nice tin roof, shining in the sun.
Like so many others, Edwin spent some of the money on his house and replacing his thatch roof with a metal one. Inside, it's adorned with lace hangings and pictures of Jesus.
Now this is my house. I used to have a smaller, very tiny house.
Small.
And now I am happy to have a bigger one that can really fit me. By then I could come when squatting or so, but now this is the big house I have.
Oh, now we can stand up. There's room for us and all these lovely lace hangings that you have here. The outside is made of cement. The roof,
Iron roof.
Yeah.
Edwin took me outside to show me his cows and goats, some bought with the free money. He says having a decent house and livestock calmed his mind, took it away from constant worry about where the next meal would come from. It gave him and his wife the mental space to come up with business ideas. He makes chicken coops. She makes mats.
Back then, it was really difficult for me to get that much. I would struggle, but by end month, at times I would be able to have 300 shillings.
300 shillings?
Yeah, 300 shillings. That is around $3. Yes.
Yeah.
By now, even in a month, is able to get around 3,000 shillings.
Which is
$30.
about $30.
Yeah.
So your kind of income has increased tenfold. Even though it's still a modest income, it's a dramatic difference.
Edwin insisted on taking us to what he said was his precious place. He led us through fields of sorghum to his orange grove.
Is when I received the money, I wanted to have something that will be a memory of what I've had after the long suffering before having the money. And so I decided to make an area of orange plants, as you can see them all, and as well, the fruits can be sold.
Skeptics warn that giving people free money will lead to foolish spending habits, that they would squander it on cigarettes and alcohol. Edwin said he would have liked to have more advice about what to do with his lump sum, and some of his neighbours are now regretting how they splashed the cash.
The first one used the money for the wedding. They made a big wedding with the money. They got the money and put it in all the wedding expenses. When the money was over, they divorced, so they're no longer there as a family. The second one heard about the big money coming, also started having issue with the wife. They divorced. He brought down the wife's house with the expectation of big money coming in.
The different impacts of these two models are crucial to the study. Interestingly, not everyone was keen on an instant bonanza. Back in the village, where they received the $20 monthly payments, the other Edwin and schoolteacher Irene are relieved they get their money in small portions.
Take example, if I'm taking alcohol, I'm drinking. I will misuse that money. But you cannot misuse with this 2,950. It's about 50,000 you can misuse. I like getting money bit by bit.
You see, a human being, you can prefer to be given all that amount. But you'll be given without a plan. You'll squander it all. But if you find that there's a little amount coming, you have to plan for it.
Now that they're about halfway through the experiment, Give Directly's Caroline Tetty says a lot has been learned from the different models.
One big lesson that we have seen is they fit in very different circumstances. Transfers that go on a monthly basis, for example, would mostly respond to resilience and daily subsistence. But if you want people to invest and quickly start building assets, you want to think about larger transfers.
Critics of universal basic income have said that it can make people lazy. Have you noticed people here becoming lazy?
People say that when you give poor people money, they will become lazy. And I can tell you this, Mary, it's a very paternalistic attitude. It is a very colonial mindset where people believe that when you're living in poverty, you cannot make your own decisions. And the moment you touch money with your own hands, you're going to waste it. And looking at the communities, you've seen that they actually still continue to work. They still have a desire to have more resources than just what universal basic income is giving them. That's why they're saving up to buy like domestic animals to keep for tomorrow. That's why they're taking their children to school.
There appear to be plenty of positives in giving people cash and the choice of how to spend it. Such schemes are efficient. They have far lower overheads than big bureaucratic aid projects. More of the money reaches those on the ground. Most people spend the cash on what they really need, rather than what outside experts think they require. But it's not that straightforward. Given the huge number of people in need across the world, the cost of providing all of them a long-term basic income would be huge. Where would the money come from? If funds have to be targeted, where's the cut-off point? Who decides? And free money is not the magic bullet. Even Caroline of Give Directly accepts that it cannot alone solve many of the structural problems that hold communities back.
Cash in itself is not a panacea for poverty. If you're in an environment where there is a dysfunctional health system, lack of educational infrastructure, transport, electricity, in that type of setting, you don't expect so much to be done just by giving people cash. But cash gives back dignity and it gives people choice. And that's very important. We can't take that away. That people should have an opportunity to be able to have some level of control of their lives. And that is what cash gives them, choice and dignity.
As the trial is only halfway through, we don't know what its full impact will be or what will happen when the free money stops. If we go back to Siaya a decade from now, will people again be struggling? For villagers like Irene, there are no such doubts. The money, she says, has already changed her future.
Do you get worried that in 5-6 years the money will stop?
Okay, if it stops, I don't have worries because I've moved from 0 to step number 10. Now I'll just thank my God for the help. Yeah? There's no worries.
This edition of the documentary was presented by me, Mary Harper. The producer was Alex Last.
In 2008, 23-year-old Norwegian student Martina Vik Magnussen went missing after a night out with friends in London.
I wonder what on earth could have happened.
We were so obsessed with just finding her.
Then
Magnussen ble drepen etter å ha blitt påført
23-year-old Martine Vik Magnussen was found partially buried in the basement.
I'm Noelle McAfee, and I've been following this story since Martina was killed, making a promise to Martina's family to find out what happened and find the only suspect in the case, Farouk Abdelhak.
Leave me a message and I'll get back to you.
He's never been questioned by the police. Nobody's been able to speak to him. Until now. Murder in Mayfair. You can listen to the whole story now. Search for the documentary wherever you get your BBC podcasts.